3 weeks. In every week, we're going to do a different quality of reality, which is different quality of relationship, which is different station, a different level, if you will, of relationship. Let's call them roommate, soulmate, and wholemate. And in fact, roommate, soulmate, and wholemate are at the human level a particular sequence in the evolution of love, which is the evolution of relationships. Now, in your most personal, intimate relationship, whether it's with yourself or your beloved or circle of beloveds or of all forms, the ability to recognize the quality, structure, nuance, feeling, fabric, pulsing tone, tumescence of roommate relationships, soulmate relationships, and what I've called wholemate relationships, being able to discern between them, to understand how you evolve from one to another, right? Why and how and which dimension of all of them are always necessary, how you move between them. A very kind of both poetic, yet embodied, yet precise psychological, yet precise existential, yet precise mystical, non-dual, radically aroused, allured, aware. All three of those exist in all three levels. So the first week, we're going to talk about roommate relationship. But now stay close. This is an evolution of relationships at the human level. So first, what we're going to begin the first week, we're going to lead up to that evolution of relationships at a human level. We're going to talk about relationships through cosmos. Relationships as a structure of cosmos, a structure of reality, to begin to understand what we mean by that. What is the structure of reality, which is a structure of relationship, story, and conversation. And we're going to talk about, fancy word, but relax, it's a good word. We're going to talk about the ontology of relationship, meaning its essential structure, what its true nature is. The ontology of story, the true and essential nature of story. It's not just a story. We put the word just and story together. It's not just a story. There's an ontology, there's a nature, a quality to story that's precise and unique. And then the ontology of conversation, which is a feature of story and relationship. What is the storied cosmos? What is the relationship cosmos? What's the conversational cosmos? That's all kind of week one, which then leads us into roommate. Roommate will be the end of week one, the beginning of week two. Right, will be kind of a roommate. Now, roommate, you might think, oh, roommate. Roommate's very exciting. It's wondrous, it's fascinating, it's subtle, and it has to be deeply understood. We relate through our roles. What does that mean? And I can have a roommate relationship to myself, to my beloved, and to life, and to the divine, and to the infinite. Right? So what's roommate? So we're going to talk about what self shows up in roommate, what we shows up in roommate. What are the primary values of roommate? What's the context for relating in roommate? So we're going to talk about 10 features of roommate. And then we're going to actually experience a momentous evolution of relationships, a momentous leap as we move, right, all through week two from roommate to soulmate. Now, what's the movement from roommate to soulmate, and how does it work? And what's the difference between them? And what's the unique structure of soulmate? And what are its values? And what is its context for relating? And right, so the same 10 features, I'm not going to list them now, the 10 features, qualities of roommate, how do those same 10 qualities reappear in soulmate, and how are they transformed? Now watch this. And why can soulmate by itself, stay close, never, ever work? So the subtitle of this course, the title of this course is, as you might have noticed, is The Future of Relationships. Subtitle, Why Soulmate is Not the Answer. That's provocative. Why soulmate by itself is not the answer. Soulmates are idolatry. we idolize soulmates, and no one actually is willing to admit they're not quite working. Soulmate is unimaginably important. But here's the sentence: soulmate by itself never works, ever. Now that's heresy, because we've killed all the gods except for Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and we worship her through the libations of soulmate. Soulmate is our libation to Aphrodite, and Aphrodite is rejecting the offering, and no one's willing to say it out loud. It's heresy. You get burnt at the stake for channeling soulmate. But you and I both know that soulmate by itself doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to say it really kind of bluntly, and I apologize. There's a certain moment where you're bored looking for long periods of time in your beloved's eyes. Don't say it out loud. Do not tell that to anyone, but actually just why? So there's something wrong with the soulmate story that no one's willing to call out. And because of that, we have a crisis of intimacy, which is a crisis of relationship, which is a crisis of love, which is actually, stay close, the root of the meta crisis. The very root of the meta crisis is precisely this. It's not infrastructure, it's not social structure, it's superstructure, which means, and what the story we're telling about reality, which is the story we're telling about relationship, which is why in other contexts, I tried to describe the meta crisis as a global intimacy disorder. The response to the meta crisis and the personal crisis is the same. This is week 3. We move from soulmate to wholemate. We don't leave soulmate behind. Everyone get that? We don't leave soulmate behind. We include it. We include dimensions of roommate, but we actually emerge at an entirely different structure of reality of relationship, the evolution of relationships, which is called wholemate. And what we're going to see along the way is we're going to journey through different selves. And we're going to see that actually, only when I actually have a deeper answer to who am I and who are we in a larger context of my self-identity, which is why, of course, this journey is being hosted by the Unique Self Institute together with Parallax, because it's about how I answer the question to who am I and where am I. Only if I change that context can I actually emerge a new structure of relationship. But that's just the very bare beginning. So we're going to move from soulmate to wholemate, and we're going to move to an entirely new structure of intimacy, which actually responds directly both to the personal crisis, right, and to the meta crisis. So here's last sentence, and here's where it gets a little crazy. Okay, just last sentence. And this is just barely, right? So you think, oh, we got this. Oh, we got the introduction. We got this. No, we don't. This is just barely. This is enough just to understand where we need to go. But we haven't even begun to take the journey. We have not yet begun, right? So here we go. So roommate, soulmate, and wholemate parallel another structure that we've talked about a lot, which we call in cosmologic humanism the story of value that we're trying to articulate. We call pre-tragic, tragic, and post-tragic. Just notice one thing: roommate's pre-tragic. I'm not even going to go to what that means right now, but it's pre-tragic, it's before the tragedy. Soulmate is tragic. Wow. Wholemate's post-tragic. So if you're wondering, and this is and again, I said in our last conversation we had, I was kind of quavering, right? Which usually, we looked up after we recorded, Andrew, Claire, and I, we looked up quavering to make sure we got that word. Usually quavering is used, in a kind of rage, right? And quivering is very tender, but a deeper use of quavering, as Andrew pointed out, is we're quavering with the mysterium tremendum. We're quavering with the cosmic. We're quavering with as Claire said, with the gravitas of it all. So I literally, like, hand on my heart, on the life of all, I cannot think of a more beautiful gift that we could give to reality that, with your permission, I would just be insanely honored to offer to you. Why is soulmate tragic? Like, huh. And there's so much pain and misery because we're reaching for something which is not the right thing. It's not the grail. Our grail is off. You know, Browning, what did Browning said? A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? But I got to be reaching in the right thing. What's my right? What's my imago? What am I? We're looking for the wrong thing. We're looking for love in all the wrong places. And soulmate, the way it's contextualized and framed now is the wrong place. We want to include the best of soulmate. We'll talk about that, but it's going to take us someplace else. And it is word of honor on everything that I know I've ever experienced, right? You know, any place ever, anything, right? If I have even a drop of wisdom that you're willing to trust me just for a second, soulmate by itself cannot work. And all the therapy in the world, and all the reading, and all the self-help literature, and all the mystical practice will not change that, which is why we're stuck. Ha! So you get it. This is a momentous moment we're trying to do together here with the Unique Self Institute and Parallax. You know, we're coming together to try and participate together in transformation. In transformation, we're transforming into something new. We're becoming something more, because that is the entire story of everything. It's what we're here for, to participate in that. And that's where joy is. And that's where aliveness is. So I'm crazy excited to see you there.